Good evening, everyone. Today we have with us our guest of honor, President and Founder of GEP, Ms. Rupa Gandhi ma'am, respected Director, Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari sir, all the deans, faculty members, officers, staff of NITIE, and student participants. I welcome you all to the NITIE Prerana Leadership Talk, where we invite eminent personalities with extensive life experiences to inspire the next generation of business leaders. We feel immensely fortunate to welcome Ms. Rupa Gandhi, the person leading the global supply chain and operations consulting powerhouse, GEP. Ms. Rupa Gandhi has an MBA from the University of Chicago, an MS with the highest honors in industrial pharmacy from Long Island University, and a BS in pharmacy from Mumbai University. She has been the finalist for EY Entrepreneur of the Year and has been featured in the NJ Business Top 50 Women in Business. Ms. Rupa Gandhi founded GEP in 1999 with the dream of building a company that creates a positive and sustainable impact on its employees, clients, and communities. As president and founder, Ms. Rupa helps lead a rapidly growing global enterprise that provides procurement and supply chain solutions to several Fortune 500 clients worldwide. As a part of GEP's CSR efforts, she actively supports global causes like the alleviation of hunger, elimination of child labor, delivering education to underprivileged communities, and promoting diversity, equality, and inclusion in the workplace. Ma'am, it is truly an honor for us to welcome you to NITI Mumbai. NITI, the National Institute of Industrial Engineering, was established in 1963 and is currently ranked as the 9th best B school across the nation as per the NIRF rankings. Since its inception, NITI has delivered solutions to complex problems of exponentially increasing industrial order and upskilled the next generation of techno-managers. I would now request our respected director, Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari sir, to give the director's address.
Esteemed guest of today, Madam Ms. Rupa Gandhi ji, and I can say it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you at our NITI digital platform. Particularly your coming on the eve of International Women's Day is much more significant to all of us because you have demonstrated that how the top leadership of corporate, particularly the founding company like GEP, which has a universal presence in the domain of logistics and supply chain. And you have created a worldwide fetter by having one of the best performing procurement and other kind of consulting services that has particularly turned around the fate of many chemical industries. And now, even on the containerized goods also, you have shown the leading path for the rest of the world to follow. We can say, ma'am, that it's our pleasure that you have been born and brought up, particularly educated in India, particularly Mumbai. But the way in which you have made your space in the entire, world of logistics, supply chain, and related consulting field, it's a super honor for all of us. And I can say you are a leading light where most of our girls students, they want to emulate you. And not only that, we have a lot of fine following for yours. And I have no words to praise your achievements and particularly your acceptance to come to as a chief guest of today's function and deliver the keynote. So for that, we are really fortunate, and from core of our heart, we all welcome and extend our hearty welcome to you. And please do come to physically also whenever you be in Bombay. Thank you, ma'am. And once again, from entire NITI fraternity side and our entire alumni side also. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for those kind words.
Thank you, sir. I now request Dean of Student Affairs, Professor Rauf Iqbal sir, to welcome our guest of honor.
Esteemed guest, Ms. Rupa Gandhi ma'am, respected Director NITI, Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, respected deans, faculty colleagues, and dear students, a warm welcome to the NITI Prerana Leadership Talk. We are honored to have with us Ms. Rupa Gandhi, founder and president of GEP. She is a renowned leader and an inspiration to many. As president and founder of GEP, Ms. Rupa led a rapidly growing global enterprise that provides procurement and supply chain solutions to Fortune 500 clients worldwide. She has been the NZ Business Top 50 Women in Business and a finalist for ENY Entrepreneur of the Year. She is passionate about supporting women, from ensuring education and healthcare to creating an organization that attracts, supports, and advances women in the workplace. Madam, on behalf of the entire NITIE fraternity, I would like to express our deepest gratitude for your gracious presence here today. Your guidance and insights are highly awaited, and we are privileged to have the opportunity to learn from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We also have with us Professor K.S. Ranjani from Finance and Accounts domain to moderate the session for us today. Ma'am, I humbly request you to take the session forward.
A very good evening to all present here, respected Director, respected Dean Student Affairs, respected Chief Warden and Associate Dean Professor Utpal, and of course our guest for today, Rupa. So the energy is pretty infectious. You just came and lit up the screen. And I don't know if it's a woman thing, but women do tend to have that impact. They do come and light up wherever they are. So I'm sure all the men there agree, and they don't think that I'm making a genderist statement of any kind. But we are very happy, ma'am, first to have you here in this platform, and we are also very happy to share with you that industrial engineering domain and the supply chain and the kind of things that NITIE is always known for. In all this, we have been making giant strides in terms of diversity and inclusion, and we now have at least 20% of our intake, we are aspiring to have women candidates. We also have a program for executives called Visionary Leadership for Manufacturing, and we have managed 25% intake. That's especially a very, very proud moment for us at NITIE, because there we have women who have exposed themselves to the way industry works, and they have then made a choice to come into NITIE to get their executive education. So we have 6 women candidates like that this time. So we are seeing a very, very significant strides in terms of gender participation. Not just gender diversity, we also see diversity in terms of a lot of software engineers and not just core manufacturing, a lot of other people coming in and showing interest in NITIE, and it has helped us to create a very analytical environment here in NITIE and make sure that everybody participates in these kind of data-driven business decisions. So if we could summarize what NITIE does for the industry, it is that we create people, professionals who are driven mostly by data and the rest by passion. So I think that's what we do for the industry, and there can be no better person, who can come today, address us. We will be guided both by your passion as well as your absolute leadership in the supply chain domain. So we all look forward to hearing from you, and I'm most certain that we are going to have a very, very lively and informative session to follow. So I now leave the dais open to you for a keynote, and then we can have a little bit of discussion. Q&A.
Sure, no problem. So thank you so much for that very, very generous introduction, the kind words that you have shared. I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to have big words of wisdom to share. So everybody's waiting to hear something earth-shaking, something very, very deep. you might be a little bit disappointed. But what I will share is, I would say, my life story. And in that, there might be nuggets that you could pick and choose. Especially for students, there might be some insights. Made a lot of mistakes to be where I am. Have been very, very fortunate, have been very lucky. So when people ask what is the secrets of success, I would say luck is number one, because there are a lot of people who work hard. Not everybody gets very lucky. So I am blessed, I would say. I've been very fortunate, very lucky to be where I am today, but more importantly, where GEP is today. So let me start with a little bit background. As it was mentioned earlier, I grew up in Mumbai. I am from Chembur. Grew up in a middle-class family. I was a middle child, so 3 kids, older sister. I was in the middle, and then a younger brother. Both my parents worked. My dad was in sales. He was out, I would say, 25 days out of 30. He was always traveling. And my mother also worked. She was an inspectress of schools, so making sure that all the government-aided schools are up to the mark. That was her responsibility. And taught us, I would say she was a trailblazer, because at that time, women either were not expected to work or chose not to work. And she, even though she grew up in a very, very small town in India, in Jabalpur, she still, when she came to Bombay after getting married, worked and raised kids while she was working. Lot of support. My grandmother helped us a lot. But what my mom taught us was to be independent. So even when we were very young, her mantra was, an empty mind is a devil's workshop. So she made sure we were busy 7 days a week. School at that time was 6 days a week. And the 7th day, she would send us to Bal Vikas, or she would send us to Hindi classes, something or the other, because you were not permitted to stay at home. And in the summertime, when I was not playing cricket, I was probably the only girl who would play cricket in a team of boys. And I remember while playing cricket, hitting a shot so hard, I broke somebody's window. And then auntie came out and started yelling at me. She said, "What is the matter with you? Why can't you be like other nice girls who help their mother in cooking and cleaning, and you're out there in the sun playing cricket with the boys?" But of course, I am who I am. And it didn't bother me. I was playing cricket. When we were, I think, very young, 5, 6 years old, my mom taught us to make chai, because both were working. If we had visitors who would come home, somebody had to entertain them. You could barely reach the gas, but you had a small stool. You would climb on that. You would make chai for visitors and give them water when they came in, and of course, entertain them while your parents got home. And as we grew older, when we had to travel, she would take me for the first time. First time, she would show me the ropes. This is the bus you have to take. This is the train you have to take. This is where you get off. This is the bus stop. This is how you walk to where you need to go. And I realized much later that it's not something that all the parents do. She was an exception in that way. And if it was not for that independence, I don't think I would have been able to come to the US. We did not have family here. We did not have friends. So if I was not raised the way I was, I think it would have been a little bit more challenging. My dad was a very, very generous guy. He was had an amazing attitude, positive attitude, and always found the best, no matter how down the circumstances were. I remember growing up, you're on a salaried income, and come the 25th, 26th, 27th of the month, there is no money left. So you are drawing upon your credit. And as soon as it's the first of the month, he would go to the place, to the shop. It was an uncle's shop, and he would make sure all the debts were cleared. I was maybe 20, 21 years old. I had finished my bachelor's in pharmacy from KM Kundanani College of Pharmacy. One evening, Dad and Mom were sitting down. Dad asked me, "Beta, what do you want to do with life?" And I told him, "Dad, I want to study." And he said, "I am so proud of you." And I was confused. And he said, "Oh, your mom and your grandmother are on my case to get you married." And they were right, because at that time, my dad had chronic kidney failure and he was on dialysis. So he would go 2 to 3 times a week to the hospital. So Saturdays was my day off. I would go with him. But during the week, my mother would take time off from work. So he told me, "I'm proud of you. I want to make sure you do what you want." He pulled my mom aside and then he told her, "I want you to make sure that she goes to the US to study, and people over there will recognize what her potential is, and she will thrive over there." I have no idea why he said what he did, because as I said earlier, we don't have friends and family in the US. Of course, afterwards, I found out that some relatives had spoken to him and said, "Oh, you're going to have a tough time getting your kids married because you're not very wealthy and your kids are not very beautiful. So that's it." So the moment I said I want to study, he's like, "Okay, at least that I don't have to worry about anything else for her." So he told my mom, "You have to send her to the US." And as chance would have it, the next morning he passed away. I was at work. I come back home. When I was at work, I was an apprentice at Höchst in Mulund, and they called up the main manufacturing. They told me that I had to rush home, which I did. And when I came home, I found out he had passed away. It was very, very tough. And I had to be the same person in the house. My mom was devastated. My sister was pregnant at that time. My brother had the board exam for 12th standard. He had gone for his exams. So after that, my mom made sure that no matter what, I had to do all the preparations that were needed to come to the US. So you give the GRE exam, you give the TOEFL exam. Couldn't afford to apply to too many schools. I applied to 3 schools, one in Canada, 2 in the US. I got admission in one of them. At that time, I did not have assistantship or scholarship, but it is what it is. Decided to come in. The relatives were not very happy about it. So I had relatives talking to my mother, telling her that she was wasting her money. Why did she want to send her daughter to the US? That money would be much better served if she spent it on my dowry and got me married. On the other side, they spoke to me and said, "How can you be so cold-hearted? Your heart is made of stone. You are the oldest person in the family. You're leaving now that your sister is married. You're leaving all that behind, your younger brother, your mother, and just going away to the US." And then, of course, you talk to people and you hear stories. And some of the stories I heard were that when you are in school, there might be some favors expected from you. And if you don't do those favors, you might never graduate. I went back to my mom. I said, "Mom, I don't know if this is for me. I don't think I want to go. I don't know if it's worth it." And my mom took me aside and said, "Beta, I have full faith in you. I have full confidence in you. But if you don't have confidence in yourself, then don't go. But don't come to me after 5 years and say, 'Mom, I missed that opportunity. I should have gone when I had the chance.'" So when she made that statement, I don't like having regrets. So I said, okay, what do I have to lose? I came to the US. It's the first time I'd ever sat on a plane. First time ever. So you land in the US, and right before you board the flight, the guy who checks your passport asks me, where are you going? I am going to Brooklyn. He said, oh my God, Brooklyn is not a safe place at all. And I'm scratching my head. Okay, I am boarding a flight. What do you want me to do? But irrespective, came to the US, a lot of learning. You have to learn how to use the coffee machine, how to use the laundry machine, how to place a food order, how to flag a cab. I remember in the cafeteria, I asked for a cheeseburger. And then I said, it doesn't have any meat in it, does it? And the guy looked at me like I had some horns coming out of my head. That no, of course there is meat in it. You work very, very hard when you are in a different country, when you have so much to prove. I was out of my room for 15, 16, 17 hours a day. If it meant I'm tutoring, I'm taking classes, I'm in the lab. I was a member of the International Students Club. So I did a lot of activities. As I already mentioned, right? Empty mind is a devil's workshop. So I kept myself so busy that I didn't have time to be homesick. Did what I could. I met Subhash when I was in school. He was getting his PhD in chemical engineering. It was Diwali. Some of my friend had bought 4 fuljaris from India. So that's how we met when we were playing with the fuljaris. He proposed to me not soon after that, and we got married. For all the single people over there, I might have some advice for you. So before we got very serious, I spoke to Subhash and I said, I want to make sure that I work after I get married, because that's the way I was raised. So if you want a spouse who is a stay-at-home, non-working spouse, tell me now, because I don't think it's going to work out. And he said, no, I don't have any problems. You can work. But he comes from a huge family. And he said, I love kids. So if you don't love kids, and if you're planning your career will come first and you'll forego kids for that, then this is not meant to be. And I love kids. So the important questions were out of the way. And that's when we got a little bit more serious and got married soon after. Fast forward a few years, we worked for a few years. He was at Hearst. I was at Ron Polanc on the R&D side. He started business school while working. He was commuting over the weekends. The classes were in Chicago. He would go Saturday morning, come back Saturday evening. He's a hardcore academic in many ways. He would be working very hard. We didn't have a life. I said, okay, might as well join the club. So I started commuting as well. And because I was behind by a couple of quarters, I had to take a full workload. So I was working full time and I was taking 3 classes. So I would fly in on Fridays, take class on a Friday, take class on a Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, fly back Saturday evening, and then do your homeworks for the rest of the week. Decided it was too much. So after a year, we quit that and quit our jobs and went to school full time. While we were going to school, I think in the last couple of quarters, one of the classes we took was you had to develop a strategic plan for your life. And we put a number of scenarios there. And knowing that we were already married when we went to school, the scenarios were, I'm going to do scenario 1. Subhash is going to do consulting. I'm going to do B. Scenario 2, both of us are doing consulting, and so on. I had 4 scenarios in there. I found that piece of paper that I had written a few years ago. And guess what? Starting a business was one of the scenarios. It was the last scenario, number 4. So you would think I would say another piece of advice I have is make sure you have your goals. If you have goals, even it doesn't happen all the time, but when you put your goals in writing, it's almost as if the universe is conspiring to make that goal a reality. So when I found that piece of paper, it was starting a business was one of them. How that came about it is a different story. So life doesn't go in a straight line. There are ups and downs, challenges along the way. So while both of us were in consulting, I had worked for a few years. As I mentioned earlier, I like kids, wanted to start a family. I had a very difficult pregnancy. So the company, I was in a consulting company, they were very accommodating. They put me on local accounts. After I had the baby, in the US, you get only 6 weeks off after having a baby. That's it. So after 6 weeks, I mean, if you want to take more time, you can. But we didn't. 6 weeks later, I was ready. I went back to the office and I was told that there was a pharma client on the West Coast and we are on the East Coast. We would like you to travel there. And I said, my baby's 6 months old. I'm nursing. I'm sorry, I can't travel. And again, they were very accommodating. They put me on some pro bono projects, which I did. I had been a very, very, I would say, average performer throughout. So at the end of the year, I had not bought much revenues. I wasn't billable. I was on internal projects. So it was a tough year. And I was fired. So you do a lot of soul searching. You wonder what's going on and say, okay, maybe consulting is not the right place for you. So I found another opportunity at a pharmaceutical company. And I said, maybe this one will be better. I was the director of business development. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. And within less than a year, I was out of there. And I realized I was not a good fit for the corporate environment at all. So I needed to do something different. Did a lot of soul searching and said, okay, I'm going to start my own business or I'm going to start working with somebody else who's starting the business. Now you have to remember, this was during the internet boom. Everybody and their uncles and aunts, everybody was starting a business. Several of our friends were starting a business. So I would meet up with them and tell them, oh, I'm really passionate. I want to do something. Now, you tell me how many people in this room would be willing to partner in a startup environment with a woman who has been fired and twice and who has a young child, who has an infant. Not too many people. So the person who agreed to do it was my husband, captive audience. He was helping me on the side anyway. And then JT, who went to business school with us and was at AT Kearney with me. Both of them were doing a phenomenal job at work. They were all on the fast track, doing consulting. But I was struggling a lot. And JT was on paternity leave. So I said, what the hell, I'm going to try. Even though he had no intention of doing it at that time, we started the business. We would meet VCs and angel investors. And the VCs, one of them in Silicon Valley asked us, so what happens to the business when you guys get divorced? And I'm scratching my head. They might have, I'm sure they had seen a lot of businesses which were started by a couple. And it is, starting a business takes a toll on, it is very, very difficult. And you have to have a certain constitution, a lot of resilience to make things happen. So fortunately, unfortunately, we did not get funding from that VC. We got money from some angel investors. They wanted us to spend. And for anybody who does not know, it's very easy to spend money. We got a couple of $1 million. Within a few weeks, that money was gone. And then you have nothing left. And you have to dig really, really deep. You have leaky roofs that you cannot fix because you don't have the money. You don't visit your friends because you don't like to go empty-handed. and you don't you can't afford to take anything when you go visit them. What it also does is you get very creative. When you don't have money to spend thousands of dollars attending conferences, you just find out where the conference is. Go to that hotel, you'll meet somebody in the lobby, you'll meet somebody in the bathroom, you make those connections. You learn to cold call. You learn to hear no hundreds of times. Subhash was the king of cold calling, 100 cold calls a day. So JT and I were a far second, 50 cold calls a day. And we had 3 salespeople, and Neha was the single person delivering everything. So you can tell how good we were or how bad we were in terms of generating revenues. What we also learned through that experience is that the internet boom became the internet bust. So of course we couldn't raise funding after that. You learn very early on that your paycheck is written by the customer. If you take care of the customer, you'll be in business. And then the people who are serving the customer are the employees. You take care of the employees, they take care of the customer, and you're in business. So those are, I would say, some of the lessons we learned. If you had asked me 24 years ago, did I foresee GEP to be where it would be today, where you have 23 and 24 different offices around the world. You have a presence in the APAC region, whether it's in India, whether it's in China, Indonesia, Malaysia, in Europe, whether it's in Prague, whether it's in London, Romania, and Latin America, in Costa Rica, in Brazil, in Mexico. I would be fooling you if I said, yes, I knew. You never, at least I would say did not know. And I would say the reason we are where we are, I would say number one is luck. And the luck is because we got the right team. The team, which the 4 co-founders shared the same core values. We all had a very strong work ethic. We were, I would say, had modest needs and complementary skill sets. So when we were a smaller company, everybody did everything and then realized, let's play to our strengths. JT is the epitome of customer delight. So he took responsibility for all of global delivery. Subhash is the visionary. He loves technology. So he took ownership for that. I love people. So I took care of the people part of the business. And Neha is connects very closely with the customers, understanding what the stated and unstated needs are. And she took ownership of strategic accounts and also just building that customer base, giving them comfort that we have the capabilities that we need. So that diversity of the skill set that we had, the complementary nature of each one of us, we are very, very different people. At the same time, having those same core values, I think helped us quite a bit. What time do I have? Am I at time? I guess I am, right?
No, I think we are doing well on time. So
you're doing well on time? Okay, so I keep continuing.
Yeah. So we don't want to interrupt you. Do you want it to be interrupted? Kids, my students?
I think let me take a pause. I have been going on and on and on. So let me take a pause and see if you guys have any comments, any questions. And I do want to say one thing. When I talk about luck, right? Having the right team, the employees that we had, if everybody continued to do just what their job was, if they stayed within that box, I don't think as a company we would have grown the way we did. I think the reason we grew was everybody went above and beyond what their responsibilities were. They had the hunger, they had the drive, they wanted to learn. So that growth mindset that people had, that was very important. And to this day, I am very, very grateful to them. I don't think we would have been here without the effort that they put in, the faith, the trust they had in us. And you have to remember, we had not built businesses before. So we were floundering, we were learning by making mistakes, but they still continued to have faith in us. We continued to learn from them. We got, as we grew, more qualified people on the sales side, on the marketing side. And I think that also helped once we were over that initial hump. We continued to make those investments and grow. I think initially when we started, it's once bitten, twice shy. Because we had spent the money so quickly in, I would say, marketing. We had a 20 by 20 booth at a conference. We had 10,000 pens that we were giving away. We went exactly the other way. It took us a long time to realize that building the company one brick at a time, one customer at a time, is a great way to do it. It just takes time. So giving, having marketing involved, building that credibility, giving our customers were our best marketing. They continue to be very, very closely involved, engaged with us, and they have helped us quite a bit. They cut us slack when we needed it. They believed in us. They took risks on us. We are a minority and women-owned business. There are some companies that wouldn't want to take a chance with a small business. But we were fortunate that they were starting with a few and then more companies that took a chance on what we had to offer and gave us an opportunity to grow ourselves. Yeah, I'm going to take a pause now. Professors, any follow-on questions? And then we can go on.
So I just keep looking at whether I have muted myself. So, and then I realize, yeah, I'm on mute. So, and then I go and unmute. So, actually, I hate to interrupt you also because it's such a free-flowing, beautiful story. I think so many of us are taking away so many things. We relate to your experiences at so many levels, across genders, people, there's a very diverse audience here for you. And I'm sure each one is taking away, something for themselves. But maybe in terms of question, when we say women-owned minority enterprise or a, women-driven organization, so how do you view this, in terms of leadership? How do you view this diversity or equality? I actually, from a very personal sense, I don't like the word equality. I prefer equity. I prefer women to be women. I don't want them to be equal to men at all, ever. Nor should men, be like women. I think everybody brings, that's what the beauty of diversity is all about. So what do you really see this as? The current scenario that's developing, do you see women becoming more comfortable in their skin? Because the story that you brought here, for example, it spoke about everything, including your difficult pregnancy. See, that's a woman. I don't want to erase any part of being a woman and, homogenize myself and create a mold and fit in there and then say, okay, this is how a leader should be. So I'm just asking you, are we looking at women leaders who can be women?
I think that's an excellent question. And I think the time has come. And the time is now. Because when I look back, we are resting on the shoulders and the hard work that many women have done before we came into these roles and in this position. Those women had to sacrifice a lot more than we did, because they had to put their identity in the background. They had to prove that they were just as good, if not better, than the men. And they were constantly in the limelight. If it was one woman out of 100 men or 5 women out of 100, there is so much pressure on them. It's almost like the entire womanhood, all the women all around the world, their future depends on how these women leaders are performing. I do not envy them at all. Now, I would say we are at a stage where many of us choose to be who we are, choose to be authentic, and bring our best selves, offer what we have. And it is important that we have that diverse team. It is important that we have that complementary skill set, because we don't want to be like somebody else. Each one of us is very, very unique. And it helps to bring better ideas to the table. It helps to have those debates and discussions. And I would say as an organization, we are better because of the diversity that comes to the table.
So here's another somewhat straight question that...
that is the trickiest question.
Sorry?
Those are the trickiest questions, the straight ones.
No. I promise you that there's no trap here. No. So you have touched significant milestones and achieved, the NJ business top 50 women in business, and you carved your role in supply chain. So in your leadership journey, what moments do you treasure? And is there a small, quick, capsule you can give us to kind of throw light on how you became this global leader in supply chain procurement, your women-owned minority enterprise? So a women-owned minority enterprise, firmly, implanting their footsteps in supply chain. So maybe one or two. I won't.
There's lots of nuggets. There's lots of nuggets. So first one I remember, when we started the business, we were 6 months into, not even 6 months, maybe about that. We had provided some services to a company, and we had saved them $7.5 million. That's saving a lot of money. We use technology to do that. When we went to raise a big round of funding, those investors called up this client and they said, this company says that they did some work with you, provided services to you, provided technology to you. Is that correct? Yes. They claim they have saved you $7.5 million. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. Would you do business with them again? Yes. How much would you pay them the next time when they provide these services to you? Why should I pay them anything? Because we had done as a prototype the first time, we provided services for free. So the lesson we learned was never ever provide services for free. People do not appreciate the value you're bringing to the table, and they don't have skin in the game. So if the fees are based on some value you have delivered to them, that's fine. But if it has no cost to them, they don't put any value. So that is one, I would say, nugget, lesson that I learned. I know you guys have talked a lot about big company, this, that. You have to remember, companies are not built by one person or two people. It is the entire leadership team that builds an organization. I wish I could take all the credit. If it was just me, I don't know if the company would exist today. At the same time, if it was any of us was not there, I'm not sure if the company would have existed, because each one of us brings different things to the table. I would say the second element would be not giving up, having that resilience, having that grit when things don't go your way. When you have investors who are telling you to close shop so that they can get a tax write-off, and you say, no, I am still going to, I had a lot to prove. I had been fired twice. So if I close shop, then it's not I had failed, I would be a failure. So I said, I'm not doing that. I have to make sure we continue. And for the other co-founders, they are brilliant people. They're very, very smart. And they would not, just because they're associated with me, they're not going to start failing. So it was, I think, not giving up, I think, is important. The third piece, I would say, is not forgetting. You talked about milestones. You have, I think, making the best of what is given to you. I remember we couldn't afford to take vacations. So guess what we did? We were going from one client to the other. We rented an ROV. We had the team in the ROV. It's like a house on wheels. We would go from one potential client to the second potential client. And when the client said, I'll drop you off to the parking lot, we said, please don't. We would run. Because you don't want to see a big RV in their parking lot. And those chances, I think they're memorable moments. Are they milestones? No. But you learn to enjoy the tough times. You're not just waiting. I think what happens in life, not just in a career, with life, we are waiting for this, I'll be happy when I get a job. Or first, I'll be happy when I get into this top school. I get into NITIE. Then it is, I'm going to be really happy when I get a job. Then it's going to be, I'll be really, really happy when I become a manager. Then I'm going to be really happy when I buy my house, I buy my car. And if you're waiting for those big milestones, you're missing out life. It is so very important to enjoy every day as it comes, because once that day is gone, it's gone. You're missing moments, whether it is events for your family, whether it is with your friends. So I think that piece is important. And I had talked about this earlier, for especially the younger people. Make sure you have your goals. If you don't have goals, you have no idea whether you're moving in the right direction or not. At the same time, make sure that the goals are not just unidimensional goals. The goal should not be just from a career standpoint or from an academic standpoint. This is what I'm going to do. The goals have to be balanced out. There are your personal goals. It has a career. It has your health. It has what are you going to do how are you going to invest in yourself to grow? You have your family goals. And then you might have your giving back goals. How do you volunteer and contribute to society, to people who may not be as fortunate as you are? So that sense of having a balanced scorecard for your life, it has a career, important. So don't wait for big milestones. We have had plenty. When we didn't have money, every time we had a successful event, all of us would go to a nearby Thai restaurant and have a lunch. We would stand up in the cubes and yell, we just won some new business. And there was a lot of joy and pride in that when we really didn't have anything money-wise to celebrate. So making most of those moments, I think, is important. I'm going to pause again.
Yeah, so I was about to ask you what are the, do you have any advice? But I think that kind of blended in this itself. But I think Tanuj is going to have a couple of questions for you as well from the students' end. So I'm just going to mute myself and ask Tanuj to come in with his set of questions.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. So we collected some questions from the students, and the first one is, as part of Ekal Vidyalaya, you are actively involved in training and skill development programs for farmers, which enable them to modify their value chain to get better pricing for their raw materials and finished products. What was your motivation behind this noble mission, and how was your experience working with the farmers?
It's interesting. So this was through introduction with one of the prior board members of Ekal, and making sure that the farmers can move up the value chain. So this was turmeric was the crop that the farmers were planting. They would plant the crop. Somebody would come once a month or something with a truck. They would buy the turmeric from all of the farmers in that village, go to a nearby town and sell it. And whatever price he bought it from the farmers, he was able to double it by selling it in the nearby town. And the only resource he had was a truck. So with that truck, he was able to double it, the money. There was a lot of thinking, and I honestly cannot take credit for it. We had Vivek Sharma, who was very closely involved with Ekal, and understanding how do you move up that value chain. If you take the crop, if you are able to dry it, if you are able to powder it, if you are able to package it, and then you're able to sell it, you do some tests on the product, you find out what the carnitine levels, which is the active ingredient in turmeric, what the content is, and you find out that it is much better quality than what is available in the marketplace. And how do you make sure that the farmers can keep more of that money, right? Instead of selling it for minimal value and having others extract the value from that the turmeric, making sure that they can keep, and what kind of support you can provide. So organizations have helped support it by providing packaging machines, drying machines. We had a bunch of volunteers, not very different from you guys, who did an analysis on what should the pricing be, how do you package it, how do you brand it, what name do you give it, who do you sell it to, how do you sell it to them. So there's a lot of work that volunteers similar to yourselves had done from GEP as well as from other volunteers from Ekal to move up that value chain. So it was a very rewarding aspect, and even figuring out what technology are you going to use, right? How do you find out how much supply of farmers have left of this particular product? Do you go a co-op route where somebody is buying all of this, some organization, and then is able to give them some value and then sell it to a different marketplace and make more money from it, so that you can buy and support these farmers through equipment, drying machines, packaging equipment, and so on. So it was a fun project because you get to give back to the salt of the earth, the ones who are working so hard so that we have a meal to eat. Yeah, it was very rewarding.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Did that answer your question?
Definitely, ma'am. Thank you for your insightful and inspiring address. It was wonderful and an enriching experience listening to you. I am sure that the lessons you have shared will stay with all of us as we embark on our corporate journey. We are privileged to listen to your words of wisdom, and I'm sure that all the students are very grateful for the same. I now request our respected Associate Dean, Professor Pul Chattopadhyay sir, to present the vote of thanks.
Thank you. Good morning and good evening. Respected Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari, our beloved director, sir, Rupa ma'am, of course, who has actually with her words of wisdom and also with, by sharing her life experiences has really enriched us. Professor Rauf Iqbal, Dean Students Affairs. Then we have Professor Shankar Murthy, Dean Academics, Ranjini ma'am, who has been nicely moderating this session, as always she does. And my dear students, it's my privilege to propose vote of thanks of today's Prerana leadership talk. Just to say what a fascinating story it was and what an experience it was for all of us to learn so many things from Rupa ma'am. Madam, you have been one of the great achievers in whatever field you have opted for in your life journey so far. And regarding women achievers, there is always a common thing which is always said or quite often said is breaking the glass ceiling. I think, ma'am, you did it quite early in your age by breaking the window panes at your neighborhood while playing cricket with a bunch of boys and you being the lone girl among the team. It's really inspiring, madam, to hear from you that in a situation when you left US for your higher studies, I know it will actually give a lot of encouragement to our students who are aspiring for so, and even parents like many of us who are aspiring for our kids to go there. So it's a big decision, as you nicely said, and it's a good lesson for us, for all of you, for all of us to learn. Madam, you have said many things actually, and you have been repeatedly saying that you are lucky. Yes, we need a bit of luck to rise to top positions. But madam, it is also true in Latin there is a proverb, and if translated in English, it says, "Fortune favors the brave." You have been very bold in your decisions. Like while managing the business, you said that you have division of work, and you undertook the most difficult part of the business, so to say, because you managed people. And while managing people, you also emphasized on core values and your wide-ranging experience. And if I say it from pharmacy to farmers, it was really encouraging for all of us. Our students might have taken a lot of lessons out of you. Thank you, madam. Today, we are celebrating Holi at Mumbai. I know that you may make you a little nostalgic. So your that colorful journey and different shades of color that you had in your life will actually make our Holi celebrations memorable for this year. And when we talk of Prerana, which is actually inspiring people, I think we have a live model with us, and he is none other than our director, Sir Professor Manoj Kumar Tiwari. He always encourages us, inspires us through his leadership skill. He's very people-friendly, and I think his presence today and then all the events that were organized at NITIE has been really inspiring. Thank you, sir, for inspiring us all the time. Then the man behind all these events is none other than Professor Rauf Iqbal, Dean Student Affairs. Our this Prerana talks and all other talks, which are under the broad umbrella of Avartan, happens throughout the year. He's the man who actually organizes this thing. He leads the team, encourages us, lends support wherever it is needed. Thank you, Professor Rao, for doing so. When I want to talk about my colleague, Professor Ranjini, I actually say that I think we would have not got a better moderator than she is actually. I have been seeing her for quite some time. Most of the occasions, she is the moderator, and I have been given the job of proposing the vote of thanks. And I really, one of the points of attraction, apart from the speakers like you, Rupa ma'am, has been the Ranjini madam. She leads by example. Thank you, madam, for doing the moderating the session very well. Last but not the least, our students, the Prerana team, they have been working throughout the year and making such events possible, finding the speakers like Rupa Gandhi madam, whose life is an example itself. So thank you, students. And also the supporting departments, the director office, the admin, the computer center, and security and transport, and all other supporting departments who have been supporting in our endeavor throughout the year in making these events successful. Thank you all. If I have missed any name, please forgive me. Thank you, madam. Thank you, Rupa ma'am. Please visit India next time. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Wonderful.
the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, wonderful, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of the entire NITIE fraternity, I would like to thank Ms. Rupa Gandhi ma'am once again for sparing her valuable time to address our students. It's a great pleasure for all of us to get insights and advice from an industry stalwart like you. We hope that you continue to be associated with NITIE and give us a chance to host you in the campus in future. I would also like to thank our director, Professor Manoj K. Tiwari sir, and the Dean of Student Affairs, Professor Rauf Iqbal sir, Associate Dean Professor Rupal Chattopadhyay sir, for their continuous efforts to facilitate an excellent learning environment for the students at NITIE, and Professor K.S. Ranjini ma'am for seamlessly moderating the session. I would also like to thank the faculty members, staff, officers, and the students for attending the leadership talk with so much enthusiasm and passion. This event was coordinated by NITIE Prerana Management Group, a student committee of NITIE. I request all the faculties and members of the organizing committee in NITIE Prerana Management Group in the meeting and our guests to kindly switch on their cameras for a virtual photograph. We'll now officially close the session.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
So nice of you. Good.
Ma'am, I would request you